The warnings in this town go back generations. Parents warn their kids, and those kids grow up to warn their own. But one day, a group of curious teenagers decides to figure it out for themselves. They gather outside the rusted iron gates of a decaying Victorian mansion and push open the heavy metal. As they step inside, the heavy front door swings shut on its own. The air goes freezing cold. Their breath fogs in front of them, even though there are no drafts and no open windows to explain the sudden chill. In paranormal theory, that doorway represents a distinct psychological boundary known as the threshold. Crossing a threshold means stepping out of the continuous flow of the present day and entering an isolated space where time is essentially frozen. That disorienting chill and the feeling of stepping out of reality is the defining characteristic reported by visitors walking into the most heavily documented haunted locations in America. The Queen Mary in Long Beach, California, is a physical threshold disguised as a luxury liner. Before its time as a cruise ship, this vessel served as a World War II troop transport. Thousands of soldiers packed into these steel corridors, crossing oceans under constant threat of attack. This history of intense human anxiety and trauma saturates the physical environment. The result is what investigators call a residual haunting, events from the past looping endlessly. Down in the engine room, at the infamous Door 13, visitors frequently report the sounds of a young crewman who was crushed to death in that exact spot decades ago. Near the first-class swimming pool, which has been completely dry for years, temporal anomalies are common. Guests report seeing wet footprints appearing on the deck and catching glimpses of women wearing 1930s bathing suits. While the pool area holds quiet echoes of the past, Cabin B340 contains active phenomena. The reports of flickering lights, bed covers being yanked away, and guests being physically pushed became so severe that the hotel eventually stopped renting it out. Stepping onto the Queen Mary subjects you to the same oppressive atmosphere of trapped history that our fictional teenagers are currently experiencing inside the mansion. Back inside, the group follows a rhythmic thumping sound up the groaning staircase. At the end of a long hallway, they find a dimly lit room. An 8-year-old girl with pitch-black eyes sits in a gently moving rocking chair. She smiles, asks if they want to play, and the bedroom door violently slams shut, trapping them inside. Here, the architecture itself becomes a threat. In paranormal lore, haunted structures frequently weaponize their own physical space to disorient or trap the living. The ultimate historical example of this phenomenon sits in San Jose, California, the Winchester Mystery House. Following the deaths of her husband and infant daughter, Sarah Winchester inherited the Winchester rifle fortune. A medium convinced her that the spirits of those killed by her family's weapons were cursing her and instructed her to build a house to appease those restless dead. For 38 consecutive years, construction never stopped. She built a sprawling labyrinth of over 160 rooms, designed to trap and confuse the spirits pursuing her. She installed staircases that lead to nowhere, doors that open onto blank walls, and secret passages looping back on themselves. The Winchester Mystery House is an example of a defensive haunting, a massive architectural trap built explicitly for ghosts by a terrified living person. While Sarah Winchester used architecture as a shield, an aggressive haunting works differently. In these cases, the physical space actively rejects the living. The Amityville House at 112 Ocean Avenue in New York is the primary example of this hostility. The house became saturated in tragedy on November 13, 1974, when Ronald DeFeo Jr. murdered his parents and 4 siblings while they slept in their beds. A year later, the Lutz family moved in and lasted exactly 28 days. George Lutz found himself waking up inexplicably every night at 3:15 a.m., the exact time of the DeFeo murders. The family documented foul odors moving through the halls, green slime oozing from keyholes, and the discovery of a hidden, blood-red room in the basement that appeared on no architectural plans. Unlike the maze Sarah Winchester built to hide from spirits, Amityville functions as a trap built by malevolent forces to drive the living out, mirroring the hostility our trapped teenagers are facing. Back in the bedroom, the little girl stops humming. The temperature plummets again. A deep, guttural growl vibrates through the walls, and the door suddenly flies open. A towering, indistinguishable shadow figure looms in the doorway, and the lights flicker and blow out. In a pure frenzy, the group scrambles past the entity. They sprint down the groaning stairs, burst through the front door, and flee the grounds, completely breathless, never once looking back. These thresholds remain in the real world. The Queen Mary, the Winchester Labyrinth, and the Amityville House still stand today, waiting for new visitors. This leaves us with a lingering question. Are these locations genuine epicenters of supernatural activity, or do these spaces act as physical canvases, absorbing and reflecting our own deepest psychological fears? Regardless of belief, the architecture of these spaces forces us to walk through the physical remains of historical tragedies. Standing in the spots where these events remain unresolved ensures that the dark history of these buildings is never truly forgotten.